Is there anybody out there? I know it's late. I know there was not really any notice to it. Probably nothing in the title that makes anybody go, "Oh, I want to watch that." But I just wanted to come on and run something by you guys and see what you think about it. Always a Minion, how's it going? Grammy Heather, how you doing? Glad there's a few of you guys still up and about. Nancy, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be. Nanya, how you doing? Yeah, just I listened to something this morning. It was a news article or news report thing, and just shared information, and I thought it was a perfect stuff to share something with you guys as far as just as the title says, a little exercise in comparison. It's something I've thought about a lot for a long time. Have noticed a lot of stuff that makes it fit. But Jody, how you doing? Carly, Adrian, Kirby's mom, hi. I don't know if it's afternoon or evening over there, but must be like early morning, maybe mid morning. Kyle. Anyhow, I just was kind of waiting for everybody else to do their thing and participate in that, and then 7:22 a.m. So you're 6 hours ahead of us, or ahead of me. Yeah. Anyhow, I just figured I'd wait till everybody kind of wrapped up with what they were doing and see what time it was, and I was still feeling like I wasn't ready to quite lay down and go to sleep yet. So I thought I'd take a little bit of time. I got a couple clips to play, pretty short. One's like a minute and a half. The other one's, I don't even think it's a minute long. But I want to present it to you guys. I want to present it to you guys and see what your thoughts are. See, you can tell me if I'm off my rocker. Some people may like it, some people may not, depending on where you stand with things. But to me, it just kind of jumped out, made a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm in Central Time, Kirby's. I like right now it is 2:30 on the East Coast and 11:30 on the West Coast. I'm the second one in from the East Coast. Judy, do we win a prize if you're off your rocker? I don't know. Maybe. We'll have to see about that. That's a good. I didn't even think about that. That's actually interesting. You know, to start doing that, doing prizes. I know that Wolf Dog's got the prize for being the first in the most times. I got to figure out something for that. But you guys doing okay today? I hope. I hope you had a good day. We were kind of out of the loop a little bit watching football because I root for the Packers and Lisa roots for the Bears. So it was an interesting night. And for any of you who care or haven't heard, the Bears beat the Packers tonight in grand fashion. Packers pretty much blew it, and kudos to the Bears for doing what they did. I hope they go all the way. Oh, come on, Wolf Dog. You didn't want to be the first in. You don't want to show off. It's okay. You're allowed to be first. It'll build an incentive, especially if I come up with some kind of prize structure here. Jody wants a prize if I'm proven to be a nut job tonight. So yeah, Snake, good to see you. And yeah, they were both. I didn't watch the whole game of the first one. I listened to the last part of it. I really thought they were going to show us a big upset there. I was shocked actually that game went the way it did. I didn't think it had even a remote chance. The Packers and Bears, it honestly doesn't matter what their records are. They play the same. If they're both great or if they both suck all season, they still have the same types of games. The Bears have just figured out how to show up at the right time and outplay them for 60 minutes, which is pretty frustrating. But yeah, it's one of those matchups that there's not much middle ground. You're either a Bears fan or you hate the Bears. You're either a Packers fan, you hate the Packers. Yeah, Carly, I'm curious about that. I'm real curious to see how that goes because I think honestly what happened in that game tonight is the coaching let them down the second half. You could tell the difference between the first half, second half for both teams, and if I think the Bears coaching staff, if they hadn't turned it around tonight like they have all season, there might have been question there too. But yeah, the Packers just have a tendency, if they get a lead, they just go to sleep. They just coast. And it irritates me every time I see them do it. I've never seen another team do it with the consistency that the Packers do. It's really frustrating. And yeah, Snakeology, I agree. Kickers. I there's a lot about the team and the team structure that's really frustrating. And Lisa Lisa can tell you, I sit here and just because I grew up a Steelers fan. I also grew up loving football, playing it, watching it, analyzing it, college football, pro level, all of it. And it just when you really understand the game and you see what happens, it's pretty annoying. The one thing I will say about that game tonight that I didn't like at all, and it wasn't about either team, it was the officiating. Because there were 8 calls that were personal fouls, 15-yard penalties against Chicago that weren't called, and they were blatant. The first 3 were hitting out of bounds. And then the other thing is hitting the quarterback. When a defensive player hits a quarterback, they're no longer allowed to like pile drive him. They're not allowed to drive him into the ground. And there were 4 different episodes where they tackled Love and 4 of them left their feet doing it. And that's how he got the concussion thing. And that time it was called, but tonight it was really pathetic to watch, that it was a one-sided thing. And I would say the same thing if they were doing it in favor of Green Bay. I just don't like it. It should not be a part of the game because it ruins the game. Let these guys get out there and knock heads and do their thing and play well and all that. The officiating shouldn't impact the game the way I think it did tonight. I know I don't watch football like I used to. And that's probably the biggest reason why. The officiating over the last 8 or 10 years has just become horrendous across the league. And it takes the fun out of it, takes the enjoyment out of it. Didn't really don't want to see it in playoff time either. That's even the worst part, because that makes you think all kinds of crazy thoughts. Like, are they trying to lean this game towards Chicago, or am I just imagining things? And I'd rather not have to worry about that when I'm watching football. But in their typical fashion, hey Hellebore, in their typical fashion, the Packers just fell asleep at halftime. I think they have a big picnic or something in there. If they have the lead, they go in the locker room and they feed them full of a bunch of food that makes them want to go take a nap instead of play football. Yeah, Hellboard. I've thought that too, because the gambling money that's thrown around the NFL now is just so massive and so influential that I could see it happening. I have no proof that it happens. I hope it isn't happening, but it sure feels like it could be. But what do you do? At some point, if it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and they don't address it, I'll just quit watching football, because I typically have better things to do than doing that. So, hey, Holly, you haven't missed much. We were just yakking, or I was just yakking, talking about football, and it's about as far as it got. So, like I said, I know it's kind of late. It's definitely later than what I've ever been on, and I know a lot of people, East Coast, it's really late. West Coast isn't too bad, but I figured Saturday night, and why not come on and do it? And this won't be a long one, really. I got a couple things to go over and run by you guys and see what you think. I'm a football and soccer fan here in England and watched a game today where the team that won a major cup last season were beat in this year's cup. Pictured by a team 6 divisions below them. Loved it. Yeah. Adrian, I think that's one thing that people don't understand about most professional sports, and no matter where you're at or what level it is, or even what sport it is. Team sports, if you're at a professional level, my opinion is any team can beat any other team any day of the week. If one team has a good day, everything clicks, and the much better record team doesn't have a good day, that other team can beat them at any time. That's why so many seasons have gone through, like, for example, the NFL, where you don't have a winless team. 0-16, 0-17. It just probably, we're getting to the point where it may never happen again. And yeah, the whole underdog thing, absolutely. That's some of the best football, some of the best sports, period. And like I said, I think it applies to almost any sport, but that's why some sports have 7 games for a championship. Yeah, absolutely. And I was glad to see the college football finally woke up and put a system in place that gives every team a little bit more of a fighting chance to make it to that game, because otherwise it was boring. You pretty much knew what the outcome of the season was going to be before it even happened, when you only got 1 or 2 games that matter and 1 or 2 teams that are really in it. But the way they're doing it now, I like that. They should have done that a long time ago. Well, Holly, if you skip through the football stuff, you should be completely caught up, because that's pretty much all we've done. So I don't think you'd miss anything by not going back. So, but anyhow, so I'll get into it, and we can. Hopefully, you guys will be interested in enough to talk a little bit about it. Those of you across the pond may not be as interested in it. But then again, maybe you are. But it has to do with a comparison between Scientology and MAGA politics. And like I said, some people may or may not like it, and sorry if you don't, but it's just my opinions about certain things. But I saw these videos, or this video this morning, and I just broke out 2 clips out of it. Like I said, the first one is about a minute and a half, and the second one is less than a minute long, so it won't take long to go through them. But I think what I'm just going to do is play the first one, and then we can talk a little bit about it. And the second one completely ties into the first one, but hopefully what I want to bring to everybody's attention will be easy enough to do without dragging it out too much. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and you guys can listen to it. This is from Midas Touch, and it had to do with Marjorie Taylor Greene and company. So that'll just at least give you some idea of what we're going to be listening to. So here we go. Maybe. There we go.
Donald Trump is terrified, and he has called the Secret Service on Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is no longer a congresswoman. And then the Trump regime leaked to the press. They leaked to Axios that they have called the Secret Service on Marjorie Taylor Greene. And they're accusing Marjorie Taylor Greene, which she denies, of setting up a protest against Donald Trump back in early September at the Joe's Seafood and Steakhouse restaurant in Washington, D.C., featuring Code Pink. The Trump regime and Donald claim that Marjorie Taylor Greene coordinated with Code Pink where Donald Trump was going to go, and that Marjorie Taylor Greene then suggested to Donald Trump that he eat at the Joe's Seafood restaurant in early September, and then tipped off Code Pink to protest him. Code Pink was there, and they were shouting at Donald Trump that he is the modern day Hitler. Do you remember that video? And then Donald Trump was furious that the Secret Service let the protesters get so close to him. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is posting that this is absolute BS, that Donald Trump and his regime are defaming her. So let's talk about what went down. So here's what Marjorie Taylor Greene posted after Donald Trump leaked to Axios that he has called the Secret Service to investigate her. She says the following.
Okay, so the following is what she says, and that's actually the second clip. But I wanted to be able to kind of break it out without going through the whole thing. Code Pink is I'm going to give a really bad definition or description, but it's a protest group that is I think it's all women. I don't know if they have a specific thing that they protest other than women's rights and things like that. I've heard a lot about them. I know there's people that know a lot more about them than I do, but what I want you guys to pay attention to here is if we were to change the names that is used in this report, how well would it fit into Scientology? And there are a number of different options that we could go through. I'm going to play the other one first before I get into that too much, but I think once you see her response, I think it might be easier to kind of plug in different names, and we can play around with that a little bit once I play the second one. But hang on just a second. I think that it makes sense to me, but we'll see. So here's the second one. This is her response.
What went down. So here's what Marjorie Taylor Greene posted after Donald Trump leaked to Axios that he has called the Secret Service to investigate her. She says the following from an account that's now called former Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. She writes, "This is exactly what I told this little White House tool that wrote this absurd, dangerous lie about me on behalf of the White House because they are mad at me for telling the truth about the president and forcing the release of the Epstein files. Now they are making up horrific lies about me."
Okay, so that was her response. And maybe this is a stretch, maybe it's not. But like I said before, and let me clarify one thing. My position on Marjorie Taylor Greene couldn't be much lower of an opinion of a person than I have for her. I've never been a fan of what she does, what she stands for, her tactics, her ignorance, her just disgusting behaviors, the things that she's done with different people, where she just doesn't give a damn about anybody but her. And yes, Holly, I agree. MTG is reaping her karma. I hope so. I'll just say it that way, because if there's anyone in government that deserves a little karma, it would be her. So we can talk about Carly, fair gaming. We can talk about all the different things that apply, but what I thought, my first thought with this was, if we just change the names of the players, this would make sense, filling in Scientology names and take out the political names. And we could go with the head of Scientology having an issue with someone that was in Scientology and going after them and saying the things they say and making up lies and making accusations, basically trying to ruin them, because we've all watched that happen. And we can also take it to the level with Scientology where it's not the head guy, but let's say it's somebody influenced by Scientology. And I guess I should say allegedly influenced by Scientology. But there was a detective in LAPD that as far as I can tell, the only reason that they do some of the things they do is the influence they get from Scientology. Whether they're Scientologists or not, I don't know. But there was one that passed information on to the San Francisco Police Department prior to the swatting that happened up there. That was just blatant lies. The DOA had gun charges and convictions on stuff of guns and drugs. And when you stop and think about it, you don't have to do much as far as changing what they've said in here, other than just changing some of those names, for me to see how parallel these two organizations are. And I'll call MAGA an organization, because it is. I mean, it's a unofficial political party, if nothing else. And swap that out with Scientology, then swap out the names accordingly. And I think they're just using, David Miscavige with someone that's lower in or has left, like an ex-Scientologist. I could see this happening in a heartbeat. The same tactics, the same extreme tactics, and the same desired outcomes. The whole thing of utterly ruining people. Because I can tell you now that Marjorie Taylor Greene's karma is she's gonna be lucky to survive and I'm not talking physically survive, just politically or otherwise, survive these attacks that she's going to face, because all of a sudden she's not a team player. And I know it's not a massive deal and it's not a real direct thing, but I just thought I wanted to see if what I was perceiving here was accurate. And it seems like you guys would agree with that. But now's your chance to prove me crazy for that prize. I'm just wondering if there's anything, I just wonder if there's anything that I am missing or that I'm way off base on. But Holly, I agree. The shunning, the discussion from the group, and it's all automatic. It just happens without even thinking about it. I mean, you can tell it. You know when it's coming, and it's not just Marjorie Taylor Greene. How many of these people don't do stuff that because they know they're going to get primaried. How many times does someone that's affiliated with Scientology not tell the truth, not speak their mind because they know they're going to get attacked? Whether it be on a personal level, whether it be on a physical level. I mean, there's stories out there, all kinds of stories out there about people dying and people getting run off of roads and people threatened and people being stalked and harassed and false reports made. I mean, Lord knows we all know enough about the false reporting that goes on. And yeah, Hellboard, I agree. Surrounded by yes men. That to me really is one of the keys. But as you go through this, there's probably 100 different things that we could talk about that parallel the two. So I guess I've thought this for a long, long time, but I think as you go through this, there are just so many things that almost become predictable because you've seen it from one side or the other, and now you're seeing it from the opposite side, where Scientology has done something and then all of a sudden MAGA does it, or MAGA has done something and then all of a sudden Scientology does it. And I guess, if we ever want to dig into it deeper, then you start talking about which one has infiltrated the other. Because that's out there too. I mean, there are a number of names that I think all of us, again, can identify and say they are Scientologists, in the Trump cabinet or otherwise, influential positions, and also people that are or have been affiliated with Scientology that are MAGA. And these people seem to utilize the same tactics. And I don't know if everybody sees it that way. I guess it would probably depend a lot on where you fall politically. But to me, it's just so easy to see. Yeah, fair gaming, just like Scientology. Yeah, I agree. I've had a thought before about Scientology training police and security guards. Yeah, I think it goes beyond that too, Kirby. So I think it goes beyond just a couple of categories. Again, I mean, maybe on a different stream we could talk more about it as far as how deep they go, but there are a lot of positions, a lot of different layers and tactics that we could identify, and some of them aren't as clear as others. There's I think there are a lot of things that are pretty intricate, but I think there are many some similarities and crossovers between the two. And it comes down to trying to figure out why. I don't know that we could ever figure out exactly why, other than both have been successful doing it. So I think even current time, how far back it goes, I don't know. Probably quite a ways. Not from the beginnings. There's no doubt about that, because L. Ron Hubbard doesn't seem like the type that would want to share any of his stuff with anybody else. He wanted it all. Of course, that sounds like somebody else we know too, but I commented with the connection under YouTube videos a lot. Mockler and Midas Touch, etc. Which leads to, why would Elrich put his teachings in titanium? Well, I think the only way he thought it was going to be successful was to make it ironclad, if that's what you're talking about. And obviously, some part of his crazy, twisted mind was right. Otherwise, it wouldn't still be around to this day. Who's the man who wrote On Tyranny? He lays out the tactics. I don't know. I don't know who wrote that. I'm not familiar with it, to be honest. But I know the other thing I'll say too is a lot of the videos I watch, because I was very, very active politically for a long time, extremely active for the last 10 years. I started in the mid 80s, being drawn into paying attention to issues and what different people were saying and doing and what they represented and what it was going to do for the people. And then in the early 90s, right around 1990, 91, a couple things happened where it was easy to be, very much into the political scene. And then the last 10, 11 years, with the development of MAGA and everything it represented, from the golden escalator on. Like I said, I was very active on Twitter. Had a pretty good following on Twitter. I interacted with a lot of the big accounts, which I think I said the other day. It's weird that I sit here and see some of the people I used to go back and forth with on Twitter that are on national television now. And it's pretty cool. But that's a whole different side thing. So Timothy D. Snyder wrote On Tyranny, and it lays out the tactics. Now, does it lay out is that a book about Scientology or something else? Or is it narcissistic cult operations? Or I guess it could fit any number of subjects that we come up with. But yeah, I think the more we all know, the better. When Scott went to LA and we talked about it beforehand, and then when he went there and I started seeing all the stuff, I dove into it pretty hard. I have some background stuff that drives me to learn as much as I can and learn more of the tactics of an organization like that. But I think pretty early on, it started clicking for me pretty quickly what I was seeing, because there were just too many things to be coincidental. And then all of a sudden I'd hear something and I'd look at Lisa and say, well, that's exactly what we thought it would do. Or that's what we said it would do, or that's what we said would happen, or those things. And a lot of it just doesn't surprise me at all. But for me, David is all the above. The tactics are all the same. Yeah, between these two, I wasn't sure if it focused just on one or the other, or both of those, or a broader subject matter. But I will definitely look into it and see what it's about. That's one thing I can say is I've always tried to learn as much as I can about stuff I'm involved with or interacting with. So the more information, the better. And I just said to Scott the other day that I've always put truth always wins in these chats. Whether it's in the chat or on a panel, I've lived my life by that, and that's treated me pretty well. But the part two of that, the winning part is knowledge is power. And I think that's what we're seeing right now with this whole group of us, and DOA, is we've come together and developed a set of information that is going to be very powerful. And knowing that, learning that, gathering that, putting all that knowledge into one, organized, structured document or accumulation of data, it's going to be amazing. That's why I think the focus away from, like Scott was saying about the mud, being in the mud. I say the trolls, I say the hate train, getting away from being, I don't know what the right word is, bothered or irritated or whatever, distracted, by the nonsense. Right now we're kind of coming into a crunch time, and it makes sense to me. Takes away some of the fun, but right now I don't think is a time to focus too much on fun. I think I missed a couple chat comments, but over here in the UK, the two main political parties were so different with their views. Now, sadly, they're both the same and as bad as each other. Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. From what I know about it, Adrian, it's confusing when you look at the different systems of government and how they've evolved into what they are to this day. Today, and it's not just here; it's a lot of countries around the world are that way. I think our problem in the U.S. is that there's just such a hardcore division between the two that's been lined and coated with hate and distrust and lies and dishonesty and manipulations. The sayings about politicians, they've been around for decades, but the drastic divide between the two here in this country hasn't always been that way. And I mean, I've said for many, many, many years that our government's broken. I talk to, like right now, I have a hard time talking to people they're consider themselves as MAGA, because there's just such a divide there. I don't know if there's a real easy way to bridge that gap. I'm always willing to try, but I just don't know if it's there. But I still have lots of conversations with people that are conservative. They call themselves right wing or conservatives or conservative Republican or what have you, whatever the terminology is going to be. I can talk for a long time with people like that. I've done that for 30 plus years, and I enjoy that. But that's not happening enough. I think the problem is that both sides want people to admit that they're wrong and agree with whatever they're saying. I know a lot of conversation comes out that way, like that's what you want, that's what your intention is. For me, that's not it at all. I want to be able to look at what's happened realistically, whether it's a good or bad thing, and then discuss why it's a good or bad thing and figure out how to make it better, no matter whether it's good or bad. Because if we quit trying to make things better, nobody wins. The three monkeys: see no evil, talk no evil, and hear no evil, do good. Yeah, you know what? I actually, I have a plaster figurine of that was my great aunt's. She died when I was pretty young, but that was the only thing I got from her because it was always something I, for some reason, was drawn to as a kid, and I still have it, and it means more, I think, every year that I that I look at it, because it certainly fits. It's more relevant. Hi, Pseudonym. How you doing? Glad you could jump in and join us. I agree, but I'll say that PR games has a lot to do with narratives, and again, lies play a part. Yeah. It's crazy how that can apply to almost everything in your life, but sticking specifically to the functions of the different political parties, and I don't care if it's parliament stuff or two-party system like we have here. It just doesn't matter what you apply that to. False narratives and lies. Again, I think nobody wins with any of that. I don't care who's doing it or who says it. I mean, I have my opinions on, which of the sides might be worse, but that's not really what I want to make this channel about, and I don't want to certainly don't want to make it whatever time it is now, 2 o'clock in the morning. Not looking to get started into something like that. That's a debate for a different day too. But yeah, people can't be honest with each other. And if the other thing too is like right now with the ICE killing that woman in Minnesota, and yeah, I apologize. I don't ever remember off the top of my head again. And her last name is Good, but the insanity coming out, the narratives that are being pushed out there, and it was right from the first minute, literally. The first statement's out, probably within an hour of of her being killed. Renee Good, thank you. I have to get that in my head because I don't want to disrespect that. But the narratives that came out immediately were insanity. And because they came out like that in force, and all these different people in higher end positions were doing it, saying it, and they were even different from one to the next, but they all basically were putting out the same false narratives. But because those people did that, now a lot of people that support them are continuing on with it, and they're trying to carry on the fight of those insane statements. And even if they watch the video, their interpretation of the video, because their initial thought processes were so skewed away from reality, that the videos almost mean nothing to them. And I mean, I've never seen something like that in my life that I've personally, encountered. I mean, this is something we can all feel, because you never know the way things are going. You never know when it's going to be in your backyard. So you really got to pay attention. But how so many people can actually hear a narrative, a wild narrative, watch a video, realize that the narrative doesn't match the video that you're seeing, and stick with the narrative. That kind of propaganda, that kind of manipulation, mind control, whatever the right term is for it, the fact that it's effective and it works is crazy. Just flat crazy to me. The witness footage is in the news and on social media here, and it was so shocking to see. Yeah, Kirby's. It really is shocking to see, because it should never have happened. It should never have happened. I don't care what anybody says. There's no way that anybody could ever justify to me that was justified. Honestly, it just, under no circumstance. And now there's new footage. There was four video angles, or 4 videos that were out there for the most part. I don't know if there are others that haven't been posted. I'm going to guess maybe there are. But a new one came out today, and it's kind of an opposite view of everything else that was out already. Everything up until this point was on, let's say the same side of the street, behind the car, or a little distance down the street, but on the same side of the road. The one I saw this afternoon is from the opposite side of the street. Now, with AI and everything else the way it is, do I know anything remotely close to giving me confidence that any and all of this footage is accurate and is not manipulated? I think that the initial stuff that came out, because it came out quick, and they all told the same story, whether you slowed it down, sped it up, or otherwise. They basically told the same story. No, I take that back. Not speeding it up. That's another thing I could mention. But this one today is from across the street, and it seems to be legit. The only problem is what was posted ends right just maybe 2 seconds before she was killed, and that's where it ends. Doesn't show the rest of it. So it's leaving assumptions, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not 100% sold that it's legit. But the one thing I can tell you is I was watching her. I was in a real hardcore MAGA person's chat, and just blown away by some of the crazy talk to me about what they were seeing and stuff. And then I saw that same person today put out another video clip that they put out to prove that the ICE officer was run over by the car, hit hard with the car. Okay. And what they did is they took the footage from, or what someone did, but this is what they posted. What someone did is they took the footage from the house that's 3 or 4 houses down the street further, which shows the front angle of the car and where the officer was. And it's the same footage, but they sped it up like 5 times, maybe 6 times, to make it look like that car came flying out of there and, potentially almost killed the guy, because sped up 5 or 6 times, it looked like it was a pretty aggressive move and would have been a hard hit no matter what, no matter how small of a hit it would have been a hard hit. But that's what they put on there. And they're, of course, for them, it was proof that the guy was run over, that he was hit hard, and he was justified in retaliating the way he did. I wish people would just get away from all that stuff. And I wish people would realize that if you have to manipulate a video to match the narrative you're trying to sell, you probably shouldn't be selling that narrative, because that doesn't make sense. And to a person that thinks rationally and is good at observing and otherwise, they're going to look at it and say the same thing I did. Well, yeah, that looks horrible, but play it at regular speed one time and tell me what you think then. Yeah, Adrian, I agree. The comments are vile, but that's going back to the original thing I was doing with this stream. It's another comparison that I've got to say that all of us, including you, Adrian, are used to the vile comments that aren't real, aren't true, that are vindictive, but vile all the time. I mean, it's not coming from a political standpoint. It's coming from the anti-Scientology community, and I use that term very, very, very loosely, because I think that the majority of the people that are passing that stuff out around, that all of us have been subject to, aren't really remotely involved in this community, because they give a shit about it, Scientology, one way or the other. But to some, there's no shame in manipulation. They don't care about right or wrong, just that their opinions are supported. Yeah, Jody, I agree with that completely. And then the other thing I'll say that I have a real issue with, and I think is another, again, one of the things that I think are real, a real strong comparison is the fact that these people have lived their lives without being noticed, without being heard, without, having an impact or input in a lot of situations throughout their lives. And now all of a sudden, with both of these examples we're talking about, there are a large group of people, or a group of people, or some of people that finally feel like they're being heard. They're being effective with their language. And sadly, they've grasped onto a concept that Doesn't matter what they say, true, false, nice or not, right or wrong. People are hearing it. They're getting people's attention. They're being noticed. And I think the same thing can be said about both MAGA and Scientology. You know, the people that are in there. Bird Beans Brain, how you doing? Barely trained federal border patrol agents using military tactics against American citizens thousands of miles away from the border. That's a hard no from me. Yeah, that should be a hard no from everyone. Don't matter what. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on or otherwise. That's just not what this country's ever been. That's not what this country should be. This country was established from the very beginning to get away from that kind of shit. And now here it is coming back, you know, full force in 2026. It's bizarre. Dictator tactics. Yeah. There's a lot of ways to describe it, no doubt about it. Because if it weren't that, it wouldn't be happening. You know, Kirby's, that's how I feel. If it weren't that, it wouldn't be happening. Because people don't knowingly do things that they know are wrong if they accept that they're wrong. Because they know that's not always the best way to, you know, face consequences. Something that's always stuck with me is that cops or any authorities, if they're going to shoot someone, it's usually not necessary to kill the person. That was horrendous to see. Yeah, Annie. The only thing I'll say about that is you know, taking the controversy and everything out of the equation. Law enforcement, specifically military and otherwise, they're trained to react certain ways to certain things, and probably the key to almost all of them, no matter whether it's military or law enforcement or otherwise, security, so in some situations, they're not trained to debilitate someone that they're seeing as a deadly threat. They're trained to eliminate the threat. So that comes through on the training side. That's it's supposed to become, and I hate to even say it this way, but like a natural action or reaction, because I just don't think that really describes it very well. But, you know, I hear a lot of people say, well, shoot, if they're running away, shoot them in the leg. They can't run. Well, if you shoot somebody from 50 yards away that's running, you know, you shoot somebody from 25 yards away that's running, try to do it with a pistol. Pistols aren't that accurate. You know, each step that person takes drops the accuracy down by miles. And again, you have to consider stray bullets and, you know, ricochet stuff and effectiveness, and also what kind of response it may elicit from the person you're shooting at. I mean, there's all kinds of crap to it, but, you know, so center mass is one term that a lot of people use, you know, when they're talking about that, and that just means aim where you're going to have the best chance of eliminating the threat. And center mass is the torso. So there are exceptions, of course, but yeah, force is supposed to be proportional. I agree. I mean, that's hard to do sometimes if it's a split second thing. I will agree with that, but this certainly wasn't a split second thing. I mean, when 16 seconds earlier, a person says, I'm not mad at you. How you go from that to this person's trying to kill me in 16 seconds, there's something wrong with that scenario. They are trained to know that if the threat is so severe it warrants gunfire, they are to aim at center mass, not to maim or injure. Yeah. Yep, I agree with that. I always thought that to shoot to disable someone is stop or capture, but not the way that was done. Yeah, Annie, I don't think there's any way to justify it, to be honest with you. It just there's just nothing there in anything that I've seen or heard or otherwise that warrants the action. You know, and if everybody's correct that this is a guy that was drugged, 300 feet down the road and got caught up in everything, the PTSD thing is probably pretty real. And again, I have my doubts that he should have been in the field in a situation like this anyway. And it certainly could impact the reaction. Doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's justified, but it just might be part of the reason for it. But yeah, eliminating threat. But there's so many things that I guess that everybody expects law enforcement and everything else to be, robotic, without emotion, without reaction, without stress, that's a wrong thought process as well. These law enforcement especially can't be expected to act without all of those, human factors. That's why, that job's probably one of the things that makes the job as hard as it is and dangerous as it is. You're not supposed to shoot people when they're running away. You're not in fear of your life if it's effective running away from you. Yeah, and they're certainly they're not allowed to shoot at fleeing vehicles either. That's law. That's not just policy. And there's, again, good reason for it. The one thing, with hunting, for example, the one thing you learn in the hunter safety program is to make sure of your target and beyond. So if a bullet goes through something or you miss your shot, what's on the other side? Are you jeopardizing other, wildlife or humans or otherwise, buildings, anything else, if you don't make the right shot? And especially when you're in a high intensity situation with, where law enforcement would find themselves in. That's why it's a law that they can't do it, because there's no way to guarantee that if they try to shoot the tires out of a car chase subject, for example, I'm sure everybody here has heard someone say or thought or even said yourself, why don't they just shoot the tires out? Why let them run for 3 hours on the LA freeway system? Why not just shoot their tires out? Because it's extremely dangerous to the public. That's why they use stop strips, the tire strips, tire spikes. It's much, much more of a controlled thing. In that case, he should have been given leave. I agree. I think it's, very because it was only, I think it was less than 6 months ago that happened to the guy. Kirby's. It wasn't that long ago. It was in October of 25 or something like that. So it wasn't that far in the distant past. And I just, it's obvious that the reaction was certainly not suited to the environment. He should definitely not be in the field with them shooting her and then calling her a bitch. It sounds more like an angry outburst than reasonable force and in a neighborhood. Yeah, all of the above. My only question to that is, I don't know that it's certain that he's the one that said that. It might have been one of the other guys right next to him, because their voice would be picked up on that body cam. So I don't know that there's anything verified at this point that it was actually him that said that. But regardless, whether it was him or any of the other couple that were right there, it's pretty telling. But again, remembering that they're all human. Humans have emotions. That could have been a reaction that they're thinking, now look what you made me do. Look what you made me do. Right? That's given a huge benefit of the doubt. I know. But especially when there's another video of another couple that were in a car today, I think it was. and they were warned to not mess with ICE and make a bad decision that you'll regret. And considering it's 2 days after that same group of people killed a woman, I don't know what kind of person it takes to say that to somebody and feel like it was okay to say, but it happened, and that's kind of what we're faced with. Are you sure it was a cell phone? Somebody said that before, and I watched it a few different times, and the movement of um, the movement of the camera just seemed more like a body cam to me than it was a cell phone. But I may be way off on that too. But it seemed like it was body cam. But then again, I don't know. Does ICE use body cams? I don't know the answer to that. I guess it'd be easy enough to find out. Maybe he had a cell phone in his pocket, in his upper pocket. Because I actually did a recording today doing that when I cleared all the snow out that we got last night. I recorded doing the snow blowing on the driveway today just to see what it was like, and it was horrible when I got done. But that's how I did it. I just put it in my coat pocket, and it filmed the whole thing. So yeah, I'll stand corrected if that's a cell phone. But like I said, it seems hard to believe for me that he would be able to pull a sidearm, shoot her, react as quickly as he did and everything else, holding a phone and being able to do that and get 3 rounds off as quickly as it happened. But also entirely possible. In his left hand, you see it as he walks around the truck. Okay. Yeah. I didn't catch that. I guess I was focused on some other stuff. I'm glad the cops here don't have guns. Yes, there's an armed response squad always on standby and are on the scene in a few minutes when it's necessary. Yeah, Adrian, I get that, but in this country, that's a whole different world. I mean, there are over 400 million, I think is what the number are. Like 400 million firearms in this country. And if you think about that, I mean, it's almost enough to smoke your brain. So I can understand why they have to have them here, but it'd be great if they didn't have to. Did you see the video that he took of him walking around the truck? Dog is on the back right seat. Was about to get in the car. They were going to leave. Yes, I did see that. Yeah. As a matter of fact, until I saw that, I think the second time I watched it because I was focused on a couple other things. I watched it again. That's when I saw that the wife was trying to get in the car. And honestly, the way that happened, I thought the wife, as far as getting hit by the vehicle, I thought the wife was in more danger than any officer would have been because of the way the wheels were turned. Yeah, apparently the wife ended up getting the dog, and they were at one point someone was talking to her, I think, and she was sitting on the curb with the dog. My question is how did that footage get out? Who put that footage out? Because from what I understand, it went to a right wing outlet, like a far right wing outlet, and it was put out by them. And was it put out with intention that they were going to prove that he was justified? That's what it seems. It's what it feels like. It's what it seems like to me. That they actually thought that that video, that portion of that that point of view would justify the shooting. But to me, it just solidified that it just there's no way that it was justified. Yeah, as far as the stuff that's out there, Adrian, the dog stuff, there's so much crap right now about this that's just, again, vile and just completely untrue. And the most sad part about the whole thing is that our president was one of the first to be guilty of that, saying the dude was run over by the car and in the hospital fighting for his life, but he's going to be okay or something. It's like, where do you get that? There's nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing that proves that out. Not even remotely close to that. And that's what the leader of the free world said. Alpha News, that's who put it out. Far right, yeah. Well, at least Nick Shirley's getting slapped around for his part in the Minnesota snafu, because I think, in part, if it weren't for his bullshit, none of this may have even happened, because you wouldn't have had 1,500, 2,000, Border Patrol agents and ICE agents in Minneapolis. But he's getting slapped around pretty hard. I also saw a clip of him saying that he was upset because one of the biggest reasons he was upset is that they were trying to debunk his story. That he was lying, which he was about almost everything he said. Kim Higgins was here and get roasted bad. It was ours to watch. I didn't see any of that. I did see some of the Nick Shirley stuff, but not him. Any truth to the story that the shooter raided the high school right after the shooting? Honestly, I doubt that is true. And what I would base that on is how fast he left the scene. He was probably sent into a quiet zone or dark zone somewhere to avoid whatever type of confrontation with media or anybody else after this happened, because it didn't take him long to leave the scene. And that's on video as well. He is sending in up to 1,000 or more ICE here now, Walsh may call it, our National Guard. Yeah, it could get pretty stupid up there. So you guys that live up in Minneapolis, eyes on a swivel. Stay up on what's going on. Oh yeah, you know what I did? I saw the video where they had somebody on the ground in front of the school, which prompted a lot of the schools to shut down and not hold school. I don't know if any others closed, beyond that, or the next day or next 2 days now. But think about that. You got schools closing because federal agents are out of control in an American city. But nobody had that on their bingo card. Excuse me. Not one riot or damage has happened here. I can tell you one thing that happened there that I watched this morning. Nanya is there was a protest going on this morning, and there were ICE agents that came out. As the ICE agents approached, the people backed up away from the curb, the sidewalk and curb, and they were out in the middle of the street, right at the dotted line on the road or on the street. And the agents came up and stood at the curb, and there was one that had one of these stupid paintball rifles, and just stood there and fired it in the ground in front of these people, just as random as you can be, just kind of like peppering the roadway in front of these people. And that was on a live video. I watched that with my own eyes. So anybody wants to challenge me on that or argue with me on that, bring it on. Video doesn't lie, when it's live video especially. But I think that agent should be prosecuted for that, because those are not injury free. Been a lot of people gotten hurt pretty bad with those things. And in that situation, just sitting there spraying them off the ground in front of their feet, just a few feet in front of them, from 10 feet away. That's just bad form, no matter what. They've also cleared the agent's house out too. I don't know what that is. Sorry. Cops have to ID themselves, wear name tags, no face mask, etc. Yeah. But we all know who doesn't and who won't. That's not going to change until this stuff is over. I don't think even Congress right now is not going to get anything passed. I know that there's bills in Congress right now being proposed to fix that, to make that illegal for them to do. But that's more than likely not going to pass, and there's no real any other alternative to stop it. His name, address, house already been shared on a Facebook page, and I am part of all the activist police Overwatch pages. Good for you, Nanya. Stay that way. I wish more people in this country could say the same thing. I mean, I'm still subscribed to a whole lot of pages that I haven't been active in recently, but it wasn't so long ago that there was not much that went on that I wasn't somehow informed about. But anyhow, well, guys, what do you think? I've been on here for I don't know how long. I don't know what time I started, and I know it's 2:35 now. And we could probably really get into this and start opening a whole lot of different topics and great conversation about it, and that could last for hours. But I appreciate you guys coming in and taking part in a conversation of something that was just, for me, just kind of goofy off the cuff thing to talk about. But I just felt like it could be something that's really relevant for more people to be aware of, and spread the word. Let people know, because you can learn from what one does in certain situations. You can learn to watch for it from the other, and it doesn't matter which one you apply that to. And of course, there's other groups out there that are similar but not the same. I don't think there's any others that really have the same level of success and staying power that these two have. But yeah, spread that around. Make people, if you see any situation like that, let people know. Pay attention to it, because it makes a lot of things clear. Or I don't know why we even study history or science anymore, because none of it seems to matter anymore. Yeah, it does, Hellboard. Don't give up on it. Really, seriously, I'll say it to all of you. Don't give up on any of this. It's not the end of everything we know. It's the end of a lot of stuff, but it's not the end of everything we know, and it's certainly not going to be the end of this country. It wasn't built the way it was built for 250 years to have somebody come in and, any one group come in and ruin it in less than a decade. Seems feasible, but I don't see it. We still have checks and balances in place, and while those are there, we still have a fighting chance to get away from this crap and get back to what we should be focused on. Both here and around the world. Because I think there's still a whole lot of people that have a lot to say about this that haven't spoken out yet. And I'm not talking just in our little corner of the world here, but all around the world. I think there's a lot of players that can be very impactful that haven't spoken up quite yet. So yeah, it's worth knowing history. Knowledge is power, 100%. Absolutely. And truth always wins, especially when you put the two together. When you get the most knowledge, you get the most power. And as long as you adhere to the truth, you win. Not much that can beat it. So anyhow. All right. Well, I'm gonna jump off here. Hope you guys have a good night. Get some sleep. And hope you have a great day tomorrow. If you're into football, enjoy the games. I'll close it out with telling you what my son said tonight. He's a Packer fan. He's grew up here, so he knows nothing else but to be a Packer fan. So he's pretty seriously into it. When the game was over, I had messaged a few times with him back and forth, but when the game was over, he says, "Oh well, I guess it's time to start watching badminton." So life as he knows it as a Packer fan is over tonight, and I has to figure out something else. So hey, Jody, thanks a bunch. Does that mean I don't have to worry about figuring out some kind of prize for you yet? I'll offer many chances to prove me to be wrong and a fool or anything else. I'm not afraid of that challenge at all. So, and I'm certainly able to accept it, when it's proven out. So I appreciate the comment that I made it to the end. So competitive badminton is crazy. All right, we're gonna have to do a stream on competitive badminton, because I think you saying that's crazy, Hellboard. I don't know what you're talking about. Competitive badminton. Is there such a thing as competitive badminton? Are you talking like professional badminton? Tell me there's professional badminton out there that I've never even heard of. All right, I'm writing that down on my things to look up in YouTube so I can find out. Yes, seriously. All right. Now I have another chore to do. I need to find that out, and it's probably going to freak me out without even thinking about it. Just thinking professional badminton, that's going to freak me out. So, all right, I'll end it there. I appreciate you guys, every one of you, for coming in and hanging out, and I appreciate the participation. And this is what it's all about. It doesn't have to be all hardcore legalese and everything else, and it doesn't have to be all heavy stuff all the time. I want to work on getting some subjects together where we can just really just hang out, relax, and kind of like Kirby's does. Kirby's, that's my goal, is to be like you. I'll never be as nice as you and as entertaining as you, but I that's my goal. I promise you. And I'm being more serious than you can imagine. I would love to offer something close to what you do. because it's great for everybody who experiences it. So, all right, with that, guys, have a good night and sleep well, and I'll see you out there. Appreciate it.